You heard me talk about Granddad. You heard me talk about Glenn. Now let's talk about Grandmom. But first, hang on a second. I have to experiment away from my mouth. By a show of hands, how many of us have called my grandmom only to have her answer with that phrase? You do. It's crazy, right? It's because the candy table and the phone table were the same table for years. It was not a good design. She literally had always just put a piece of candy in her mouth anytime anybody called. Wherever Grandmom was, there was candy. At her funeral, there is candy. The first thing she asked for in her new apartment after we moved out of Spruce Lane was candy and placemats. When I think about Grandmom, two main themes emerged: clothing and food. Let's start with clothing. My grandmom had many opinions on clothing, mostly everybody else's clothing. Their socks, their children's lack of socks, Scott. We all really think that her favorite catchphrase was something along the lines of, "Are you wearing that?" Scott told me once in my teenage years that if Grandmom said, "Are you wearing that?" that's how you knew you were ready to go. Despite her focus on how everybody else looked, she never really remembered anything. Every time I'd show up at her house over the years, she'd ask if I had a new bathing suit on, even if it was the same one I wore the week before. And she'd constantly comment on my many tote bags, as if she'd never seen someone carry many tote bags. But let's analyze her fashion for a moment. White capris, standard issue Grandmom uniform, probably Simona from Kohl's, and always with a stain on the leg that was usually chocolate. And jewelry, big beaded necklaces, pearls, big colorful earrings, often heavy and sometimes clip-on that would stretch out her ears. Going through Grandmom's jewelry boxes was so much fun when I was little, trying on all the necklaces and seeing how many bracelets I could stack on one arm. So much jewelry. The biggest thing that I associate with Grandmom, though, isn't clothing, it's food. In my younger years, she was where you went if you wanted a treat. A pretzel at Clover, a funnel cake at the fair, candy at the 5 and 10 after going to the train and or dollhouse store, ice cream from Coors or Nickelby's at Stone Harbor. She used to buy containers of green sugary sprinkles for me so I could eat them by the spoonful. The second and third spoonfuls, by the way, are the best because at that point the spoon's already wet and it's like a lollipop. It's fantastic, just trust me. My favorite Grandmom treat was her butter cookies at Christmas time. She'd make a double batch, sprinkles for me and plain for Granddad. She still made me a batch every Christmas until a few years ago. I think we all remember summers under the umbrella, eating ridiculous amounts of food. Bushels of peaches, dozens of ears of corn, bags of chips, always in a basket with a napkin. And perfectly melty Hershey bars in the hot sun. And being told that toast crust would make your hair curly, which it does not. As I got older, though, I got wary of food with Grandmom, because if you said you liked something in her presence, then she would buy it every single time, until you had so much of it that you didn't like it anymore. She could ruin a good thing. Take pita crackers, not chips. The bag says pita chips. They were pita crackers. We had pita crackers a few times and everybody loved them. Then suddenly every weekend we were being forced to eat them. And God forbid we didn't open the bag. She would remind us every 5 minutes that there was a bag on top of the fridge until somebody broke down and opened the bag. And then they went in a basket with a napkin. I had an ex-boyfriend years ago who loved her pecan bars, and I swear if we kept in touch at all, he would still be getting pecan bars. Marley loved some fruity V8 juice once, drank it for years. Orange swirl ice cream was a great treat for me, but not every weekend. Speaking of ice cream, there was always ice cream. Some new, some downright ancient, and some in flavors nobody wanted, but there was always ice cream. She was basically a celebrity at Henning's, buying treats for us and broccoli for my mom. Later I learned that Grandmom really hated cooking and honestly wasn't great at it. She overcooked pasta till it was mush. Glenn called my mom once to ask how long to cook angel hair. That stuff cooks in like less than 2 minutes. She cooked it for 10. She complained about cooking constantly, but we knew if we were hungry, she'd have us covered. The biggest food lesson I learned from her was about takeout. As she got older, we got takeout a lot, which you would think would be easier than making food. But no. She had to know what everybody was getting before she would order, especially my mom. She had to ask her first, and then again at the end. What are you getting, Valerie? And then she'd order chicken and cashews pretty much every time anyway. She was horrible at talking to Chinese restaurants, so I took over that job. I can't understand them. They say 10 minutes every time she called. Even more stressful than the ordering was the actual arrival of the food. First, she wanted to know if anybody was in there. I have no idea why it matters if other people are in the Chinese restaurant. Then, it doesn't matter. Then if I got the food out of the bag, she'd say I was going too fast. But if she had to get the food out of the bag, she'd complain there were too many containers. We'd spread out the food and start eating. But within at least the first 4 minutes, we'd hear, "Did you ever notice on TV they eat out of cartons?" Or, and sometimes Martha Stewart wouldn't approve of this table. I'm never going to be able to eat Chinese without hearing those words. The last food lessons were about hosting. If it was a holiday or a birthday, then you had to have napkins. Festive napkins, occasional napkins. And if she was going to your house and you told her that you had napkins, she'd bring you some, just in case. Or if she was going to your house and you said you didn't want napkins, she'd bring you some, just in case. And tablecloths and candles. I swear she bought a new pack of birthday candles for every single birthday. And there were a lot of birthdays. We always celebrated at Grandmom's. It wasn't really truly your birthday until you had cake at Grandmom's. And gifts. Lots of gifts. I'm gonna miss her a lot. We all are. Josh and Abby were lucky to have met her, and we know she was head over heels for both of them. Wherever she is now, I hope she's eating candy, wearing white capris, clip-on earrings, bangle bracelets, and making food for Granddad. On behalf of all of us, we want to thank you for coming and for the love and support you've given us this past year. We especially wanted to thank Grandmom's amazing neighbors, Mrs. Pilley, Mrs. Tiburon, and Colleen, whose last name I apparently don't actually know. Thank you guys very much.